Okay, Rabbi Frand, thank you so much for joining us. Nobody needs me to introduce Rabbi Frand, international everything. Marbitz Torah, teacher, Machanech. I would not do it justice if I began to introduce anything about Rabbi Frand, but suffice to say that we're extremely privileged to have Rabbi Frand with us to talk about this year's very important and serious and penetrating topic of bullying. So Rabbi Frand, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So if we could just work a little bit through, talk initially about schools. Would Rabbi Frand agree that schools need to be proactive in addressing bullying and negative social situations? Should the schools be proactively involved in this area of social involvement?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt to that whatsoever. It's a problem. Apparently, it's an international problem, and it's a problem that has terrible consequences, which I don't think, certainly the kids that are involved in this, I don't think they see. Kids are short-sighted. They don't see the implications, but the schools do, the parents do, the mechanchim do, the teachers and mothers do, and it has to be given our full attention.
So if they should be involved, then what can and what should schools and Torah institutions be doing to combat the bullying that happens in the school? To say that they should be involved, I guess, is an imperative, but what should they be doing and how involved should they be?
So over the last 30 years, I've learned something that I don't think I was aware of when I was younger. And that is, I don't know what the situation is in Eretz Yisrael. I think it's Eretz Yisrael, they say, is 20 years behind America. But when I was growing up and when I was in the yeshiva, Beis Medrash, etc., smoking, everybody smoked. At about the end of second Seder, there would be a cloud of smoke that would be hovering over the ceiling, and everybody smoked. And then everybody, people knew, it's not healthy, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But the society, at least in America, they went on a campaign about the dangers of smoking. And not to say that it's totally wiped out by any means, but at least in Ner Yisrael, the yeshiva that I am in, it's very rare, if at all. Of course, in other yeshivas, especially in Eretz Yisrael, it's still prevalent, but not here. So now, how did that happen? That happened through education. We beat it into people's health. It causes cancer. It causes heart disease. This and that. And today, at least in America, people who smoke are a pariah. I mean, you can walk down the downtowns of any community in America, and outside of office buildings, it's 13 degrees outside. People are shivering, and they're out there smoking because you can't smoke inside. So what does that have to do with Yiddishkeit? What that has to do with Yiddishkeit is the same thing happened with Lashon Hara in the United States and in the world, which means there was a campaign about the evils of Lashon Hara and how terrible Lashon Hara is. Now, again, when I was growing up, it was people spoke Lashon Hara. Maybe they got to the point, well, this may be Lashon Hara, but it's a sea change. It's a sea change. People they're embarrassed. That's Lashon Hara. They'll speak to that's Lashon Hara. How did that happen? That happened because of education, and again, to a large, this has been a universal thing. They started shir, a Daf Yomi shir in America. Begins or ends with Hilchos Shmir Salashon. The Chofetz Chaim Sefer was printed in English, etc., etc. And there have been so many. We changed society. which is mind-boggling. And again, I'm not here to advertise organizations, but this is in large due to the, I don't know how prevalent it is in Eretz Yisrael, but the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, which their Tisha B'Av programs and all of their programs in schools. What happened with smoking, lahavdil, and what happened with lashon hara has to happen with bullying until people realize, hey, you can't do that. That's bullying. So what schools have to do, and again, I don't work for the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, so I'm not getting paid for this, but they have now produced videos and educational materials about bullying. And that has to become part of the curriculum of all schools, yeshivas, Beis Yaakov, etc. Until people realize, hey, you can't do that. You're bullying. That's how it has to happen.
And I guess for awareness purposes, there are many aspects of Torah and personal behaviors, midas, that we could focus on. But from what we're discovering, by talking about this year, is that bullying so much underpins so many other issues that, as if I'm understanding Rabbi Frand correctly, the Chofetz Chaim himself spoke about Shmiras HaLashon because he understood that was the point at which society was crumbling and we weren't building the Beis HaMikdash. So, am I understanding correctly to say that bullying that's the key topic now for giving extra emphasis? It's taking the Ben Adam L'Chavero element to the nth degree, particularly in our young community.
Yeah, and what I think has to be emphasized, and obviously when you're dealing with children, and we're not talking about 6-year-olds, but when we're talking about 12-year-olds and certainly older kids, they have to realize the horrible ramifications and implications of what bullying can do to a person. And I listen, there are many factors in what happens to a person's life, but I'm aware of a situation. This happened many years ago about a girl who was in a grade school, in elementary school, what you would call a Haredi school, the mainline Haredi school in a large city in the United States, a very large city, and this girl she was in elementary school. By the 8th grade, she was the victim of bullying. Now, when it came time for her to make the decision of what high school she's going to go to, should she go to the Beis Yaakov, which was the normal course of events, which she would go with her friends from the elementary school, or go to, for lack of better terminology, she'd go to a more modern school, less Haredi type of school. And the girl said, I cannot go with those friends anymore. So she went to a different school. Less Haredi, less Torah-dik, let us say, a frum school, but nevertheless. So that set the course of what seminary she was going to go to. And therefore, when she went to that seminary, apparently it didn't work out well. Today, that girl is not frum anymore. She's not frum anymore. And she's in a relationship with a non-frum man. And I'm not saying, okay, cause and effect. This is the bullying. That was a contributing factor. Now, when I hear these stories, I'm tempted. I've never done this. I don't think I will do. To go over to those kids. Do you know what you're doing? Do you want to lose your olam haba? You're going to be a shomer mitzvah. You're going to shomer Shabbos, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. You go up to Shamayim and they say, you see that girl? She's not frum anymore. You see that kid? He's off the derech because you did that. And I don't want anybody to have to go through that. You live a life of frumkeit your entire life. You think you're going to get the Olam Haba, and look, and then they say, what did you do to that person? You killed that person. And you have to pound this into their heads. It's a horrible thing.
Education. This needs to be a mainstream part of school Torah education. It is not a cute, let's all be friends with each other message. This is a mainstream piece of curriculum that has to be prevalent for all students.
Exactly.
And mechanchim.
Yes.
So I guess if we move out of the school realm for a minute, we come into the other realm of the home and the other pieces of the puzzle. So we've got the parents. Now, parents often will feel that their hands are tied when they'll roll their eyes with their ask, have you spoken to the school? And they'll kind of say, yeah, it's a dead end. They don't help. In their limited capacity in terms of what happens in the school arena, what can parents do to build up maybe resilience and empowerment in the home to allow their children at least to be able to have the tools and the resources to deal with what they might be facing at school?
Well, number one, I think that, a person who bullies is a personality type. And a person who gets bullied is also a personality type. And apparently a person who's a bully senses right away, this kid is a candidate for bullying. And one of the things parents have to do is they have to tell their kids if they are subject to bullying, they have to tell the child to say, you got to stand up for yourself and say that when someone does this to you, that's not nice. That's like they'll tell them, you're saying Lashon Hara. And parents have to tell their children that there cannot be party to this. If you see kid A, Ruvain, picking on Shimon, then not only Shimon has to say, you're not being nice, but all the others could say, hey, that's not right. Stop doing that. Until the bully gets it that he becomes a pariah. And the parents have to go ahead and say, you cannot tolerate that. Not only when you're not being picked on, but that kid, that Nebuch, that kid, you have to. Everybody has to. Sorry, you can't do this. And parents have to go ahead and stress with such a child, stand up for yourself. They say, again, that's not my area of expertise, but all bullies are cowards. So, if enough kids go ahead and speak back to the bully, he's gonna back off.
So a concerted effort to teach children to either not tolerate the presence of bullying or to even tolerate it within themselves if they find themselves on the receiving end. I guess a bit of a touchy question, but sometimes we say that actions speak louder than words. If the bullying has a physical context, to what extent should we be teaching kids that it's okay to not just speak back, but maybe take actions to fight back, to hit back? How much tolerance is there for such a situation, or how much we have to say, no, that there's never a time?
Well, I mean, if you see a kid beating up another kid, now I'm not pasking a halacha, but just like how Roidef Achar Chaver Lohorgai, there's a concept of Nitan Hatzila B'nafshay, that if Reuven is running after Shimon to kill him, then Levi is allowed to go ahead and to kill Reuven. Any bystander, Loimi boy, the person himself, Loimi boy, the nirdaf. But anybody standing by is allowed to go ahead and to intervene. So again, I'm not a paisek, but it seems to me that the same thing applies, because if in fact bullying can in fact damage the person, so then you can intervene.
And sometimes people would go as far as to say, and again, I know I don't want to put words into Rabbi Frand's mouth, and I know that Rabbi Frand doesn't want to paskin, but some people will say, if the bully one time in his life experiences a fight back, he might calm down.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I mean, bullies are cowards, and if you stand up to them, and even if you have to intervene physically, again, I don't want to get letters or phone calls. You know what you're talking about. That's a cane near relief, but yeah.
Okay. Now, we touched on it just before. The rabbi spoke a little bit about the others. Very often, if there wouldn't be other people standing around, then the bullies wouldn't have such an arena within which to conduct themselves. It's often the onlookers that facilitate the bully being able to do the bullying often. But then you've got the bullies themselves, and the rabbi already mentioned the bullies are cowards, but very often the bullies themselves have a very complicated life. And there's a reason, Rabbi said before, personality types, but also maybe to do with their own background. They often have themselves lost control of other areas of their life, and they're exerting their control on someone else and making them be the victim of whatever it is. So how do we deal with bullies as well?
So if a person is a bullying type of personality, I mean, listen, kids get into fights. Listen, that's part of growing up, etc. But if you have a kid that's like, a muad, a bully hamuad, like a shor muad, I think that the parents have to go ahead and, whether it's professional counseling or sit down with the child's Rebbe or the child's teacher or with the child's Rov or, a mental health professional and try to get to the bottom of it. Why is he like that? Why does he need to do that? What's happening in his environment, in his home, that makes him resort to such behavior. And, again, first it has to be done, I think, between parents and child. If that doesn't work, then you have to bring in other people. And, whether it's the Rebbe, whether it's, the principal or whoever it may be, or the psychologist or the social worker.
So there has to be a pretty good line of communication between the parents and the schools, because if the school's reporting back to the parents, listen, your son, your daughter, whatever it is behaving in this way, and it's as the Rav put it, he's a bully hamuad. This is not an isolated incident when some kid had a brush with some other kid in the schoolyard one time. This is a perpetual mode of behavior which is expressing itself. The parents have to also have an achrayus to be open-minded and open-eared enough to be able to address that head-on with the school as well.
Right, and it has to, and it has to be emphasized to the kids that this is not an example of, boys will be boys and kids will be kids and girls will be girls. No, there's a problem over here, and if you don't correct it, it can manifest itself later in life when a person gets married, the way he treats his wife, the way he treats his kids. I mean, again, not every kid who once bullied a kid and beat him up in the schoolyard is but again, if this is in fact a pattern and this and that, you have to be proactive. You can't just Isaiah does, no.
Now, many of the things that we're discussing now are maybe the classic kids in school, bullying kids in school, possibly here and there outside of school. Nowadays, we have a new arena that many of our young people from different communities find themselves in, which is the arena of social media. However much exposure some children do or don't have to that, but whereas once upon a time, perhaps at least between the hours of whatever it was, after school and before school the next day, there was some kind of a break. There was a let up. and you had the sanctuary of your home and your family to potentially take solace or retreat in. Nowadays, people are plugged in 24 hours a day. People are posting things on various groups about other people, whether they're making fun of them or they're commenting on them or their pictures, whatever it might be. There's just no respite. And people feel the presence of this issue the whole time. As someone said this year when I was talking to them, they said, nowadays, many people have to manage an online persona. It's like running a business. There's me, myself, and then there's me, the way I present myself to the universe. Obviously, ideally, we're not connected to social media. But in the instance where people are, how are we supposed to help our children build resilience where, this is way out the hands of the school, and very often it's way out the hands of the parents because this is existing. All the kids are on this thing, and they're picking on one of the boys, picking on one of the girls. How are we supposed to combat the presence of these things?
Well, I don't know what your situation over there is in Ramat Beit Shemesh Bifrat and in Eretz Yisrael Bichlal, but in the yeshivish community in America, people don't go on social media. That's part of the education. Social media is mavaza pnei chavera on steroids. Because it's ain't l'davar safe. They used to give the old mushal of the pillow that you go ahead and you open the pillow and the feathers fly all over the place, and it's impossible to go ahead and to try to collect all the. And that's what lashon hara is. You say lashon hara, this person says it to that person, it flies all over. That was a mushal that was good for the 1920s. It's not good for the 2020s. And social media, it is incredibly destructive. Technology is great. Listen, you're sitting in Ramat Beit Shemesh at 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're talking to each other like you're sitting across my desk. It's great. But like everything else in life, it has its downsides, and social media and this literally killing people on social media. It's horrible. I ban it. Listen, I do have, I do use the internet, but I use it with the gedarim that the terror world imposes. Filters, whatever it may be. But social media, there's no need for that. I may want to have to book an airplane ticket, so I need the internet. Okay, okay, or whatever it may be. I have not been into a bank in years because I do it remotely, but I think I do it in a kosher oven. But social media, there's no need for that.
Okay, even though I guess even the way we're talking now, Zoom could be a form of social media. Sometimes people have comments. They're putting things in Corona. People were having classes online, and there's a section where there's sometimes an option, but you can disable that. But sometimes people they had access to a social media, even if they didn't have full-blown social media. They were suddenly exposed. A whole generation of 2 years, 3 years. There were kids being exposed to things that they never had before. People in their homes were bringing things in that they never had before.
Yeah, but especially with kids, why does a 15-year-old need to be on social media? An adult, there may be a different situation. Again, a business may be a different situation. But what do kids have to be on social media for?
So that gives an achrayas again to parents to maybe band together. Because once one person in the class, whatever, maybe have exposure to something, suddenly it starts spreading, as the Rav said, like it's like a pillow with feathers that you can't pick up.
Correct.
Okay, so what message would Rabbi Frand give to people who kind of play bullying down a bit and say, listen, I was in school, some kids picked on some other kids, it made them stronger in life and we all got through it and we're all adults now and it's okay. People make too much of a deal about bullying. It's everyone's too sensitive nowadays.
the Metzias is Machiach Lehepech, meaning, as I said, I know that's one case that I happen to be aware of. I'm sure that this is multiplied many, many, many times with unfathomable ramifications. I mean, leaving Yiddishkeit, leaving life. I mean, and therefore, you could say, well, everybody speaks Lashon Hara. Oh, yeah, so, well, no. No, we see that it has become a major social implications. I mean, I recently heard of a case of a girl, a teenage girl going to camp, and the other girls from a more affluent city said, "That's your outfit? You must be from Hicktown, USA." The girl had to leave camp after a week. The parents go ahead and spend $2,500 on a camp, and it's intolerable. That's just, it just has too many ramifications to just dismiss it and say, yeah, it's part of growing up. You'll be stronger for it, et cetera, et cetera. The implications and it's just too severe.
Would Rabbi Frand think it's an exaggeration to say that sometimes we could even frame bullying as pikuach nefesh? There are people who have taken even more radical steps to take actions that alleviate what they can't really control anymore when the bullying gets out of hand.
It can. I mean, if I had to put up signs of Ma'amorei Chazal, Hamavaza pnei chaver b'rabim ein lo chelek la'olam haba. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I'm worried about it, my olam haba, because to me, it's not some distant thing. When you're 12 years old, what's olam haba? Okay, but so I don't know what it means to them, but they have to know that they're dealing with their religious future, and that may be too much for a kid to understand, but that's the reality.
And I guess because of what Frand said before, education, this is how we got the messages through with other things, whether it's health things or Lashon Hara things. I don't want to put words in Rabbi Frand's mouth, but I understand from the fact that Rabbi Frand said we need to do this. We're not doing this at the moment. For some reason, there is a gaping hole here. As an entire community, we're not taking the bull by the horns here and instituting part of our curriculum to make sure that these things don't happen, because we can speak strongly about it from today to tomorrow. And as Rabbi Frand said, Olam Haba means different things to different people at different stages, but we're missing something. If we need to do this, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
Okay. Rabbi Frand, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your insights into the real midas and interpersonal ramifications that bullying has, and the achrayus responsibility of schools, parents, machanchim, and everyone to band together to make sure that we uproot this terrible situation that exists, and we're not doing enough about it.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Again, I'm my level of education is, I teach in a base medrash. We don't have this, and the yeshiva gedola, et cetera, and my kids are all grown ups. They have their children, so I'm not in this parsha. But from what I hear and what I do know, and I would urge you to get in touch with because I know that they have these videos and these programs, the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. I don't know if it's available in Eretz Yisrael, but I would to get in touch with them, and maybe you have to go ahead and convert it into Lashon Kodesh as opposed to English, etc. But they're on it, and therefore avail yourself to their programs.
Rabbi Frand, thank you so much